We continue our sermon series today on living life unafraid. And today we'll take a look at how fear can be used as a weapon against us. And there is a basic premise that I'm going to use and follow today. You can certainly disagree with me, but this is the point of view that I'm coming from today, so just so you know kind of where I'm coming from. And here is that premise. We typically fear that which is different or different from us or unknown to us. Fear is a feeling. We've talked last week about our brain receives messages and we decide whether the situation is a threat and if we need to fight or flee. That feeling of fear comes from those thoughts. Thoughts can be distorted by things like inaccurate information or faulty assumptions or an overly negative point of view or mistaken beliefs. Those kind of thoughts can lead to worry, fear, and anxiety. And worry and fear and anxiety can lead to unhealthy or misdirected actions. That was a lot. It'll be hopefully become clearer to you as I go through the sermon today. Now, last week we talked about having a well-developed faith. And that goes beyond simply knowing that you believe in God. It's knowing why you believe what you believe about God. There's an acronym that Adam Hamilton uses in his book Unafraid that helps us develop a well-considered faith in God when it comes to facing our fears. It takes the letters of the word fear. So we face fears with faith. Examine your assumptions in light of the facts. Attack your anxiety with action and release your cares to God. We're going to be using that acronym throughout the rest of the series periodically, and I will have it for you as a little takeaway like you got last week. I'll have that for you soon. It's become quite challenging these days to discern truth. We've spent months hearing about fake news. This past week, we heard a new phrase that's been making the rounds. Truth isn't truth. I have to admit, I'm still trying to understand and unpack and process that one. When I get there, I'll let you know. But truth isn't truth is the latest catchphrase going around. With so many messages bombarding us from so many different sides in so many different forums, how do we know what to believe, when to believe it, and most importantly, what to do with the information? Now, each and every one of us have automatic thoughts, things that we have come to accept as true, things that we know are certain. And some of those things might actually be true. But some of those might also include assumptions, generalizations, knee-jerk reactions. It's a really good idea to occasionally stop and examine what we believe is truth and why we believe it. Unchecked, automatic thoughts can lead to unhealthy outcomes. We need to step back and question our rationale and our assumptions to make sure that what we believe is actually true. I love, Jace, a truth brush. You can't script these things. Thanks, Jace. We need to take out our truth brush every once in a while because in some cases what we think is truth really isn't. Here's an example of what I mean. Americans routinely report that they believe that violent crime is on the rise in our nation. And it's easy to see why. Just this last week, we've heard of a man in Colorado who murdered his pregnant wife and 2 daughters and dumped their bodies in an oil field. We heard of an Iowa college student who has been missing for a month, found stabbed to death in a field. And that's just the stuff that we've heard about. Those are just a couple of examples. In 2015, 65% of Americans believe that there was more violent crime that year than the previous year. But if we stop and get out our truth brush and look at the facts, we'll see that the statistics show that violent crime is actually lower today than it was in 1993. It's dropped by more than half. The chart on the left shows how many people say the violent crime is on the rise. The chart on the left shows the actual decrease in violent crime in our nation. So when we seek facts, instead of automatically believing things that we hear, we discover that our assumptions aren't true and that things might not be as scary as we sometimes think they are. The trick is overcoming our fear to the point where we actually seek out the facts. September 11th, 2001 became a pivotal and defining day for this nation. That was the day that the idea began in many people's minds that Muslim extremist groups' primary focus is to kill Americans and Europeans. Now, is that a goal that they have? Sure. I don't think we'd find anyone who would doubt that or would dispute it. But is it their primary goal? Let's get our truth brush out. In the first half of 2017, ISIS killed 1,670 people. 29 of those were American and European. That's less than 2%. 95% of those killed were Muslims living in Islamic countries. So the facts tell us something about this automatic belief that Muslim extremist groups' primary goal is to kill Americans and Europeans. But we don't stop to examine the facts, and our fear continues to grow and it spreads. Not only are we afraid of Muslim extremist groups, now many people claim to be afraid of anyone who practices the Islamic religion. That's just one example of one group. What other groups does our society or our culture teach us to fear? When it comes right down to it, the answer is we're taught to fear anyone who isn't like me. The propagation of the message that we need to fear something or someone or some group that is different from us is the use of fear as a weapon. Chances are we are all guilty of it on some level. How many of us have told someone, if you don't stop what you're doing, then there will be consequences? Daily. Parents of the world, unite. Stop running around the house or you will be punished. That's an example of using fear to instill or to achieve a desired result. I don't want my kids running around the house. I tell them, stop. You're going to be punished if you don't stop. My kids now have a fear instilled in them. It could be a fear of something that's known. Stop running around the house or you're going to get a spanking. The fear is, I'm going to have a sore bum. And just for the record, yes, my kids were spanked occasionally, and they are both productive, well-adjusted results, contributing good things to society. Well-adjusted is relative, because they are PKs, preacher kids. Yep. The fear could be something that is unknown. Stop running around the house or you're going to be grounded for a week. Well, the fear is, wow, what are my friends going to do without me while I'm stuck at home being grounded? Maybe we've had it said to us. The doctor tells you, if you don't stop doing this, you are going to die. Now, the doctor might not intentionally be trying to scare you, but the effect is the same. The fear of consequences of actions taken or not taken. Now, the use of fear as a weapon is not a new tactic. Think of propaganda used during war. At some point in this time, people in this country, fear was used as a weapon. They experienced the use of fear as a weapon against Germans, Japanese, Vietnamese. Today it's Arabs, Muslims, Mexicans, just to name a few. And most of the fear, what makes it so effective, is the unknown. The unknown fear, or the fear of things that might never happen, like we talked about a little last week. Now remember my premise from earlier. Fear, worry, and anxiety can lead to unhealthy and misdirected actions. We fear something we perceive as a threat, whether it's a valid or an invalid threat, and we take actions. If we believe Muslims are trying to kill us, let's not allow Muslims to enter the country. That's an idea of action taken from an invalid or valid fear. And as Christians, we can fall into this trap just as easily as anyone else. And we can get sucked into acting as unchristian-like as non-believers in a split second. No one is immune from this. And as Christians, we have it twice as bad, because not only do we have culture and society telling messages like Muslims want to kill us, but we also have a hidden enemy that knows our fears and uses those fears as a way to try and sabotage our relationship with God. It's that little voice inside that might say, they're right. They really do want to kill us. We have to take action against them. We have to do something. We need to be aware of this trap and watch out for it so we can avoid it. But how? First, the E from our acronym. Examine your assumptions in the light of the facts. Seek the truth. And believe me, I know it's hard to find. Some of you know that my husband had a 20-plus year career as a newspaper editor. The former editor's wife in me goes absolutely crazy when I see people sharing news or telling information without checking the facts. I can't tell you how many Facebook posts I have just frantically typed, calling somebody on their behavior, and then erasing it and posting a picture of my kitties. It's just safer. Don't share information that you don't know to be correct. Seek the truth. that means you might have to explore things that challenge your automatic thoughts. If you're a Fox News watcher, watch MSNBC every once in a while and flip it. Or better yet, just go to an unbiased news source. Don't just assume that something is true because it aligns with what you believe. And don't believe that something that doesn't line up with what you believe is fake news. I have this sign that I keep in my office. It says, "Don't be afraid to be open-minded. Your brain will not fall out." I look at it often. You can't examine your assumptions. You can't examine your automatic beliefs if you don't consider the opposite point of view. Second, follow the example of Christ. Jesus shared difficult words with us when it comes to the actions we take against fear, against those we fear. Matthew 5 says, "Love your enemy and pray for those who persecute you. Do not resist one who is evil. But if anyone strikes you on the right cheek, turn to him also the other. And if anyone would sue you and take your coat, let him have your cloak as well." Luke puts it this way: "Love your enemies, do good to those who hate you. To him who strikes you on the cheek, offer the other also. And from him who takes away your coat, do not withhold even your shirt." And of course, the words I shared earlier from Romans: "Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good." Those are hard words. Those are hard commandments to live out. I'll confess that I'm not there yet. I still have some work to do. How about you? But we can start by not allowing fear to be used as a weapon against us, whether it comes from man or Satan. 2 Timothy 1:7 says, "God did not give us a spirit of cowardice, of fear, but rather a spirit of power and of love and of self-discipline." We have to work on disciplining ourselves not to allow fear to be used against us. Embrace the power of the Holy Spirit that lives within each of us to help us face fear with love. And remember the acronym from earlier: face your fears with faith, examine your assumptions in light of the facts, attack your anxieties with action, and release your cares to God. God is our refuge and our strength, a help always near in times of trouble. And that is why we can live unafraid. Amen.